Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Game of Fortune. I think it is time for us to finally finish up this route, shall we? To see whose ending it is? Because I'm not exactly sure still at this stage. Maybe it is Clyde's ending? Anyway, you can do this. That voice. My head swiveled around. For a moment I heard her voice. I felt her influence. So familiar, so close, and yet so far. Maybe it was madness or desperation making me hear things, feel things, see things. But maybe a little bit of desperation is what I needed. Because in that hesitation I saw it. A glimmer of hope. A small shot at victory. I just needed to calm down, focus, and think. Think about the rules. Think about what's happened. Think about how you can turn this to your advantage. I looked around one last time. In front of me were two cards, a 0 and a 1. Richard also had the same amount of cards. The bomb was right in front of me. And then at the other ends of the table were Alphonse and William's empty seats along with their cards as well. The first key to winning is, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. I assume if you're looking at the cards, then it's the cards. That's right, the cards. No matter how much I thought about it, the cards are the only way to influence where the bomb will rotate to. The key to winning here was the cards. However, it's not just any particular cards that matter here. If I want to win, whose cards am I going to need to use? I thought you're not allowed to touch other players' cards. The dead player's cards count as other players' cards, right? The dead player's cards? I find it odd that Bell didn't remove the cards from the table if they weren't to be used anymore. Despite the violent explosions and the deaths of Alphonse and William, their cards are still tucked over on the side of their table, and they're still very much still playable and unharmed. If I could use their cards, I'd have more options to pick from. Still, even if they're there, that doesn't mean I can pick them up. I could just get disqualified and die. Normally that'd be the case, but that doesn't apply to those cards because they don't belong to the players, I guess, because they're dead. Those cards don't belong to players. After a player dies, they cease being a player, they're just a corpse. Gruesome, yes, but under Bell's definition, they're not players anymore, since they're not setting cards or flipping them over. Essentially, once a player dies, they cease being a player, and in turn, that means that their cards don't belong to them anymore. They're fair game. Anyone can take them without worrying about being disqualified. Not only that, if you follow that logic, then another solution comes to light. Since players cease being players upon death, what else is true? The highest value cards aren't removed? The highest value card isn't removed. Bell specified that each player would have their highest value card removed after each round. But the rounds end when someone dies, therefore the first deceased player should still have all their cards. And the second deceased player should have all but one of their cards. Yes, I can use this. With this I can win. Even so, there's no guarantee that all my assumptions are correct. Bell might consider the dead player's cards still other players' cards, or maybe she still removes each of their highest value cards despite them being dead. But I have to take the risk. It's now or never. If I can win here, then it'll all be over. I don't see how having their cards will help. I reach over towards Alphonse's cards and quietly pick them up. I wince, wondering if the bomb would explode as I made the move. But it didn't. My first assumption was right. The cards don't belong to other players, so anyone can use them. I grabbed William's cards and quickly added them all to my own. Richard hadn't turned around yet or noticed what I was doing, and I doubted that he was going to stay silent for much longer. I had to act fast. I quickly looked over all my cards and checked to see if my second assumption was correct. I grinned. It looked as though everything would work out. Well, maybe. It was never a guarantee. I imagined that Richard might still be able to sniff out my plot, or maybe he'd still rely on his emotion reading skills. But I had to try. I couldn't play from behind anymore. I was going to win. I was going to get through this. I moved the cards around, took a deep breath, and then prepared myself for the showdown. You're right, Richard. There's no point having this be a game of fate. Not while I've got everything figured out. Richard flinched and craned his head back over toward me. Have you found your resolve? I wiped my face with the remaining tears and then grinned back at him. I've not just found my resolve, I found a way to win. Richard looked me dead in the eyes and then I saw it, a look of confusion and fear. He could sense it, my confidence. I'm sure that he could see it in me. I said I'd go first. Are you ready? He still seemed to be in a daze from my overwhelming confidence, but steeled himself as he reaffirmed his gaze upon me. You can try and bluff your way through this, but I'm not going to fall for it. It's no bluff, I'll show you with this. I started by picking up my pile of cards and then took the card off the top and flipped it face up. I proudly displayed a 1 card and watched as Richard's face shook again with confusion. Before he could regain his composure, I slammed another card face up. Another one. I looked back at Richard, who seemed wildly disturbed by seeing 2 1 cards suddenly face up on my side of the table. How? Wait, but You can't have those cards. None of us have duplicates. One of those must be fake. They're not fake at all, Richard. See? They're just not my cards. Not your... Richard looked at the sides of the tables and noticed the missing cards from each end. He swiped the cards from the dead. That's right, I mean, no point in hiding it. After all, you would have found out by looking at the small size of my little deck here. Richard growled in irritation, but then brushed a hand through his hair. What difference does it make? Doesn't matter if you take all their cards. The ratio is... I couldn't let him get momentum. I have to put pressure on him. I have to show confidence. Before he could finish his sentence, I slammed down another card face up. A 0 card. What are you doing? Are you just trying to play me for a fool? I didn't answer, instead simply flipping up another card. One more 0 card. 2 1s and 2 zeros. That must mean... I interrupted him as I slammed down the last card of my deck face down in front of me, officially setting the card that I intended to play. Richard went wide-eyed and then turned his gaze to me. Hold on, you should have... Where is it? Where's the last card? You should have one more card. One more card? What are you talking about? I saw a look of frustration take hold over Richard's face as he leaned forward and glanced all around the table. That's it, get flustered, get confused, question everything. What's the issue? I already set my card down. Everything's up to you now. That frantic look of confusion on his face reached an apex as he reached for his cards and then prepared to set one down. But he hesitated. He brought his card back to his chair, sat back down and took a deep breath. Not good. I couldn't let him calm down and think things through. Hey, are you going to play a card or what? You almost got me. Huh? Really, I just need to calm down and think. You set down 2 zeros and 2 1s. Then you set down one card. That would put you at 5 cards. Right? So that would mean the card you put down was either a 0 or a 1. I bet you just hid one of those cards in your bag, right? There it is, that nervousness. I can see it in your eyes. In the end, all that was just a little show to get me off my game. You avoided eye contact for most of that, but no matter how you try to hide it, I can see that sense of unease. Ultimately, you're still stuck in the same position now as you were just a few minutes ago, just with a few more cards. I felt sweat rolling down my back, fearing what was going to happen next. So then, Richard plucked a card from his hand and showed me a 1 card. My heart skipped a beat and I saw Richard's smile crawl across his face as he saw what he was looking for. You look really scared after I showed you that 1 card, Clyde. Suppose that means you put down a 1 yourself. Good game, Clyde. You did amazingly well, all things considered. You've earned my respect. You have amazing skill, a quick wit, a strong heart, and unfailing courage. When this is all over, I hope we can be friends. I think we'd learn a lot from each other. Are you done talking? Oh, don't be so angry. I understand this might be scary to you, but just shut up and look at this. Huh? I reached into my sleeve and flung a card towards Richard, and slid across the table and landed face up in front of him. He looked down at the card as it slid across the table. Ah, so you're admitting defeat, that's honourable. I turned around, refusing to look at him, but I could imagine the look on his face. He was probably confused, surprised, and most importantly, scared. He should be, after all. The card I flung at him was a 1 card. What is this? I didn't answer, keeping my stance firm and refusing to turn back to face him. Hey, look at me, Clyde, what the hell is this? This third 1 card, it's not real, right? This is just some kind of trick, isn't it? I could hear the desperation growing in his voice. He was faced with a contradiction, logic that would state I only had 3 zeros and 3 1 cards. Since I revealed 2 zeros and 3 1s, the card I had set should be a 0 card. But when he looked at my eyes and saw my nervousness, he must have figured I'd put down a 1 card. And now he has to reckon with whether I was somehow able to fake my emotions in front of him, or there was some kind of trick I'm employing. Turn around, you coward, let me see your eyes. You can't play me for a fool like this. You hear me, Clyde? Explain yourself, your eyes. You can't lie to me with your eyes. So why? Why doesn't this make sense? What the hell did you do? What are you? How did you do this? Clyde, turn around. Face me and turn around. I'll only turn around if you set down a card. I can't set down a card like this. I fulfilled my end of the deal. I played first. Now you have to play. The cards. You must have done something with the cards. If I can figure it out, I can... Are you sure you want to take that risk? I shuffled up my cards with the others pretty well. If you touch mine, you'll just end up dying. So it was a card trick. Then you really did put down a 1 card. Believe what you want to believe when I'm done talking. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. I could only find solace in my heartbeat, but even then, I was afraid that somehow Richard would figure everything out. But maybe my posture would give it away, that my shivering would belie my confidence, that I might have given him some kind of clue. Eventually I heard the sound of Richard setting a card down. It's done. I set a card down. I didn't want to take any risks, so I reached backward to feel where the card I had set down had been played. If Richard really did set down a card, then I'd be able to touch it without getting zapped. I was able to lightly lift the card up, so I figured it was safe. I took a deep breath and turned around to see Richard solemnly looking down at the set card in front of him. Even when I fully turned around, Richard didn't bother to raise his eyes to meet mine. You don't want to see my eyes? I can't trust him right now. I don't know what to believe. Do you want to flip first or should I? I'll go first. After all, you played your card first. Richard took a deep breath and raised his hand over top of his own. It looked as though he was fighting to find the strength to lift the card off the table. When he raised and flipped the card over, it revealed a 0 card. I felt tears well up in my eyes and my lung exhale all the tension that was stored up in my muscles. It was over. It was over. Relief. He was right. I felt sweet relief. I went to flip my card over, but Richard intervened. Wait, I don't understand. How? How did you win? You should have trusted your instincts. My skills were all about just finding a way to win, a way to survive these games. But you, if you just thought about it for a while, you'd understand why I looked so afraid and nervous when you showed me a 1 card. I flipped over my card to show Richard the real ace up my sleeve. The card I revealed was a 3. 3? How'd you manage to get a 3 card? We all lost the top card in our hand each round. Not quite. See, that only applies to players. When someone dies, they cease to be a player, so when William died, he didn't lose any cards. But if that's true, then you should have 9 cards. I counted 6. Where'd the other 3 go? I reached into my bag and tossed out the other 3 cards. 2 2s and 1 0. I had to trick you into thinking that, like us, the dead players lost their cards too. When you had your back to me, I threw those cards into my bag and left the others in my little deck. I couldn't risk you reading my plans though, so to ensure you didn't look at me, I flipped the cards over and over again, showing you the narrowing possibilities. But you only showed 4 cards, and set down 1, your 3 card. Why not show the 3 1 cards and the 2 0 cards? That, again, was to keep you from thinking logically. You could have come to the same conclusion, given enough time and focus. I was actually a little afraid when you almost slammed down a card. I needed you to be on tilt, so I let you read my eyes. And only when I was sure that you were confident did I throw that wrench into your plans. That third 1 card. Right, after that I turned away because I knew you'd try and read my face again, but I needed you to make a choice. Believe in that logic that I had presented to you, or trust in your abilities and deny that logic. I thought that if I'd showed you everything at once, you'd take the time to figure it out. So I needed to make a desperate move to make you feel confused and question everything. Even then though, you could have calmed down and maybe figured out the same things I had. All that was to say that it was just a really wild gamble, a gamble that I would be able to defeat your impressive emotion reading abilities. I see, you gauged that I trusted my ability so much that when it faltered, I would fall back on seemingly infallible logic. People do that. When our usual tricks and strategies fail, we move on to the most secure thing, like latching onto a stable branch after falling from a tree. How poetic. You have quite a way with words. You know, despite all this, I really wish it didn't have to come down to this. I don't want you to die. Of course, fate had other plans. As the bomb rolled over toward Richard's side, Richard looked up at me, taking a deep breath and then relaxing in his seat, which took a firm grip of him. I can tell. You got a strong heart and a benevolent spirit about you. And that's not from me looking at you in your eyes. You said that death wasn't the end here, right? We're going to meet again and everything's going to be alright, isn't it? He nodded and smiled back at me. The bomb rolled back over to my side. My heart started to ache again as I felt my eyes watering once more. Why was I such a crybaby? Now of all times I needed to keep my head up, didn't I? There's no need to cry, Clyde. We'll meet again, and it's comforting to know that such a strong spirit is here with us. Even in defeat and failure, I know that you'll somehow have a great impact on a lot of people here. But however briefly they let you into their hearts. After all, it's been a while since I had seen such a radiant soul inspire me, so... You better be telling the truth, Richard. I'll see you when this is all said and done. He laughed again, and as he did, the bomb rolled over to his side once more. Of course, and while you might not remember this, I hope that you can feel what I'm about to tell you. You're no failure. You're an amazing man that can amount to amazing feats when the time calls. Don't let one incident of pain define you or your future, okay? I won't, Richard. Glad to hear it. I'm sure Devon is proud of how well you did. Anyway, looks like it's my time to go, so... See you soon, friend. The bomb blinked white for a moment and then everything went white. Eventually the white light faded, and I looked up to see a calm, cloudless sky. My hands were gently grazed by grass that was flowing to a calm breeze. I felt an odd sense of peace, my body being hugged by the grass and brushed by the wind. But rather than get sucked into the calming experience, I sat up and looked around. All I could see was grassy hills rising and falling toward the horizon. My vision was slowly pulled over toward that one landmark in the entire grassy meadow, a table with 2 chairs set out, with Belle sitting down and enjoying a cup of tea. Once her eyes met mine, she joyfully waved her hand around and beckoned me closer. Hey, Clyde, come on over. I made some tea for us. I didn't see anywhere else to go, so I obliged. I cautiously walked over and took a seat across from her. She wasted no time pouring me a cup of amber-coloured tea. Well, go on. Tea is made for drinking. Enjoy yourself. You've earned it. I stared down at the cup and then slowly brought the drink to my lips and sipped. This is amazing. I expected it to have a bitter taste, but it was sweet. A strong ginger flavour with a hint of apples. It was just perfect. I know, right? It's my special blend. The flavours match your desired taste perfectly, warming up the heart and soul and providing a most excellent taste. Yeah, it's good. Good. It's the best darn tea you'll have in your life, death, and everywhere in between. Okay, it's great. I frowned as I looked down at the tea once again, staring at my reflection from the drink. It doesn't feel good, like winning all this. Really? You're not happy you've won? Don't get me wrong, I'm happy I'm alive. I'm grateful that I made it here to the end. I just don't understand why, really. Why'd I have to go through all this? Why'd I have to fight and kill? It was all for a wish, right? All these games, all this death. When I was playing the games, all I could do was thinking about winning and surviving. And all it did was remind me of how my life used to be. How all I cared about was finding some worth and being able to win. I hate it. For God's sakes, I killed my best friend. I threw away morals and used every desperate trick I could think of just to survive. And that just for some dumb wish? Who would want that? Belle was silent but kept her eyes locked onto mine, as though she were peering into my soul. Life and death, do you feel as though you understand them? What do you mean by that? Do you know how valuable life is when you're fighting tooth and nail for your very survival? Do you understand how precious and fragile it is when you see someone you love die? These games are simple. They test how much you value life, yours and others. After going through such painful trials, seeing so much death, fighting for your life, you come to appreciate it. So this is just some test? Some lesson that you're trying to impart on me? Not just you, everyone here. I try to make sure that everyone here learns something, as these games are special and affect forces that can have immense consequences. For example, bringing someone back to life. You can bring someone back to life? Belle laughed, but then nodded her head. You see that 4-leaf clover over there sitting in the bottle? Yeah. It grants one of 4 wishes: life, death, immortality, and mortality. Since you made it this far, you can make a wish to bring anyone you want back to life, granted that you know of them. Or you can have anyone you hate die. You can give someone immortality and ensure they can't die. Or you can remove that veil of immortality and make someone mortal again. Those are the wishes? Those are the wishes, and I'll grant one of them in earnest. Though, I'll also let you know if a wish would be invalid. After all, it'd be hard to kill someone who's already dead or someone who's immortal. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is a trick. This is too good to be true. You're going to twist my words or intention somehow and I'll end up worse off than when I started. Oh, Clyde, I understand your hesitation, but I'm not some cruel goddess that wants to make people suffer. I understand intentions quite clearly. Think about it. If people realized my wishes were twisted and unfair, would they flock to these games? Suppose they wouldn't. And again, some people are desperate enough to try anything, even if their desires get twisted and their wishes interpreted the wrong way. So suspicious. Well, caution is a good thing to have, but I can promise you that not once have I ever ruined someone's wish. Imagine such a cruel joke, making you go through all this to have your wish corrupted. People would sooner curse my name than actually come pay me a visit. Alright, I guess that makes sense. Exactly. Now, I won't push you, but I do believe you had a certain goal in mind when you came here, didn't you? You wanted to save your mother, right? Yeah, I did, but now... Did something change? My mind flashed back to the first game. The physical pain and torment that happened was nothing like the emotional blow that shook me seeing Devon die right in front of my eyes. Yes, I lost my best friend. I want to use my wish to revive her. I want her by my side again. Those are some romantic words you're using. Don't fuck with me. I wouldn't be able to live knowing that she died and I did nothing to bring her back. So please let me bring her back to life. Clyde, I can't do that. Why not? You said I could use my wishes to bring back the dead. You said you wouldn't twist any of my intentions, that you know what I want. Well, damn it, I'm laying my heart out as bare as I can, and you won't even let me do this? Calm down and let me explain. I promise you'll feel better after I speak. I sat back down and tried to settle myself. Belle sighed and took a sip of her tea. I can't revive Devon because she's not dead. The hell do you mean she's not dead? I saw with my own eyes. Are you telling me it was just a lie? Well, she is dead, but not in the way you're thinking. Everyone here except you is currently dead, so to speak, but death here isn't quite the same as it is elsewhere. Think of this place as limbo, or perhaps purgatory, a place between life and death where rules of life and death are fluid. So you're saying that she's not really dead? Precisely, and I can promise you that everyone, Devon included, will be returned back to the regular world alive and healthy as they entered. Physically anyway. Mentally, well, people tend to be overwhelmed after their experiences here. I suggest going to therapy after all this. I see. Then Richard was telling the truth. The dead here don't really die. You should know better than anyone else, Clyde. Didn't you feel Devon helping you out all those times? Huh? What are you talking about? Oh, never mind. Well, I can say at least that Devon in her own way was pushing you forward. Was she really helping me all this time? Even after death? Well, it doesn't matter now. You've won. You don't need any more help or guidance. I see. Then that immortality thing, how does it work? I figured you'd ask. It's what it sounds like. I give someone immortality, make it impossible for them to die. They could get shot, stabbed, dismembered, burnt, or even eaten alive, but their body will piece itself back together and be good as new. You're making it sound more like torture than a gift. For some, it just might be. Does that work for illness as well? Of course. Though you can get so sick and your body will naturally heal itself up. Some might say that it's the cure for all diseases, but that's just one way to look at it. Think about how sad you'll be not being able to take sick days off. So I can really save my mother just like that. Get rid of her illness. Just like that, if that's what you really want. Then I want that. I wish for my mother to have immortality. Okay, wish granted. Belle reached over toward the clover and tapped one of the leaves. It momentarily glowed blue before fading back to its usual green. She then took a sip of her tea while I sat there anxious and waiting for something awe-inspiring to happen. But nothing occurred. The wind continued to blow. The sky continued to shine. And Belle continued to drink her tea as though everything was normal. That's it? That's it. She took a sip of her tea and started to play around with the clover in her hand. Like, really? That's all it takes? That's all it takes? You look surprised. I don't know, I guess I was expecting something more regal, flashy, amazing. A spectacle like that isn't really needed. That's just what you expect because the gravity of granting someone immortality is just so amazing. You think it needs some grand ceremony. If I granted a wish to give you a cup of tea each day, you probably wouldn't have batted an eye if I granted it the same way. Suppose you're right. But you should be happy. I'm sure your mother would be glad to know that her son went out of her way to save her life. Yeah, that's going to be a weird conversation to have. Indeed it will be. So what now? Well, talk for a while and then you'll start to feel a little sleepy. You'll fall asleep and lose your memories. And then we'll play another round of the game. Wait, we're playing again? Yep, but look on the bright side. You get to see all your friends again. Though I guess you won't remember them fully. No, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to, you can't make me. Oh, but I can, Clyde, and I will. But you won't remember anything. Not after the game starts again. Why? Why do we have to go through this again? Because everyone needs to learn a lesson. Everyone needs to make a wish. I know that seems painful and cruel to subject you to these games time and time again, but those are my rules. I looked down at my tea and felt panic that had started to boil and my blood begin to simmer down. And there's nothing nothing to it then, right? Eventually I'll lose and I'll die and just like everyone else did. Now you're getting it. Ideally, you'll only have to go through this 15 more times. 15, huh? Did we each only get one wish? That's right, one wish per game. If you want to make another, you'll have to stop by again in 4 years. I see. I think I understand now. I cut my tea and took another sip. I guess I'll just play along then, until the end. Yeah, honestly, I'm impressed you did so well, considering how little you knew. How little I knew? Oh, lots of people here know all about the mechanics and rules and how the game plays out because they've been here before. Some people don't have personal experience, but they hear the rules and such from someone else. And then, there are a few people like you that come here knowing absolutely nothing. You come in scared, confused and weak. Most of the time, those kind of people are usually the last to win. But you managed to win first out of everyone. I think that's kind of commendable. I don't know what to say, I guess I just never gave up on myself. That's cute. But it's also the kind of attitude that makes you win. You fight for something, or maybe you fight for many things. And sometimes someone helps push you along in that fight. What are you implying? I'm just saying you had a lot pushing you forward. Your general competitive spirit, your desire to survive, the support of others, maybe even your affection for a certain Devon Rhodes. You can't. I'm just teasing, though love and affection are wonderful motivators, as you'll see in the future. As she spoke, I felt my body getting heavy and my vision growing blurry. Looks like it's almost time then. That's right. Well, this has been a splendid conversation, Clyde. I'm glad I got to meet someone who respects life and death so much, that you've taken my lessons to heart so well. But aren't I doomed to die anyway? I'm going to forget everything, aren't I? How are you sure I won't unlearn these lessons? Some things stick with you even beyond death. My lessons are one of those things. When all is said and done, you'll remember. And besides, you can still make a big difference, even on your path to death. Even if you don't win, you can sway how things go. Save some, doom others, influence a wish. There's a lot of ways you can alter the future. I see. I guess I can make a difference then. Of course you can. Now rest. It'll be time to begin again soon. I better at least not think I'm a failure anymore. I doubt it. A victory like this is something that sticks to your very soul. Now sleep. We'll see each other soon. My eyelids grew heavy as I felt my body float around in nothingness. We were going to start again, but something told me at least some things would be okay. That I had overcome some obstacle in some sense. Maybe that's why I was able to find some semblance of peace in the oncoming slaughter of these future games. Clyde End. Find purpose and hope. He found a spark of hope and joy in the dark and pointless life. Some purpose and direction cleared out so much pain and strife. He nurtured the spark until it became a burning flame, and thus he found assured success in this cruel and painful game. Take heart, Clyde. You found your fortune and learned your lesson, and thus we begin again. And seeing we're going to be beginning again, I suppose, even though it's a couple of minutes early, we might as well wrap this one up here. Because in the next one, we're going to be picking a new path. In fact, we're going to be starting on this side, which is going to be interesting. The one where we split up from Devon right at the start. So, that will be interesting indeed. So until then, thanks for watching, Bruce, and I'll see you in the next one.